Hi everyone, welcome back to the All Inclusive podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Isaac Harvey, an inspiring advocate for the disability community whose personal journey resonates with a global audience. Isaac's achievements include receiving an MBE from King Charles for his dedicated service to the disability community, and leading Wheels and Wheelchairs, an organisation that pairs roller skaters with wheelchair users. Last month, Isaac joined me in the studio to discuss how assumptions about disability affect workplace inclusion and the vital importance of mental health support for employees. As always, before jumping into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell, and follow on your favourite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. That being said, let's jump in. Hi, Isaac.
Hello.
Welcome to the studio, All Inclusive.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm your first guest.
Yes, you are my first
In person.
guest in person. Let's just get that clear, in person,
Yes,
guys.
yes.
We've had like a couple episodes, just a few beforehand. But yeah, this is my first in person. I'm really excited. I'm so pleased that you're able to make it out today.
No, thank you. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, so let's get stuck in. Let's get started. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about you and yourself and what DEI means to you?
Sure. So I am Isaac, born with a disability called limb pelvic hypoplasia, which means I have no arms, short legs, scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. And on top of all that, I have acid reflux. But that hasn't stopped me from achieving because I've had very supportive friends and family who've treated me like everybody else and never discouraged me from going out there and doing things that people don't think I'm able to achieve as a disability. So that's definitely pushed me to do loads of different things. And through that, I've become a disability advocate where I share my lived experience day to day and get to collaborate with loads of people within the communities. And to me, I think it's an opportunity for everyone to be heard, and what they can bring to the table.
I mean, I think your achievements are incredibly inspiring. I mean, you've gone from sailing, skydiving. You were also honoured with a MBE for your services with the disability community, which is incredible. It's amazing. So what drives you to take on such adventures and the advocacy work?
I feel so in the beginning, when I left school, I did media studies and business. And as that was like the first time I was able to be creative because I always had a creative mind. Um, but school, with it being quite a strict schedule, I was like, I'm not doing the 9 to 5 when I left school. I just knew that from the get-go, I'm just not doing the 9 to 5. I need to do something creative and something that's going to allow me to express that. So I started to do videos of filming of the different things that you've mentioned, like the skiing, the skydiving, all the different things that I would get up to. But I would never talk about disability in the videos because I didn't really see why I should be doing that. But friends and family kept saying to me, "Oh, you should really talk about disability in your videos. You could really change people's perspectives and make them have a better understanding." And I thought, "Oh, why do I have to do that for? I just want to be creative." So they kept telling me, I kept on ignoring them until I was given an opportunity to do a talk up in Birmingham, actually, talking about my life and the obstacles that I've had to overcome. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I spoke about, I have to do a lot of planning when it comes to train stations. Not everything's accessible, so I have to sometimes do a lot of alternative routes. And if it's long days, I need someone to be with me. And I spoke all about that, but I said, even though I do have those challenges, I still can do really great things. And once I'd finished speaking, everyone was clapping and cheering, And then at the end, there was a woman who came up to me and she said, um, after hearing your story, you've really changed my perspective on things. Because she gets loads of pains in her legs. And she said, I'm always complaining about life, but after hearing your story, it's really changed my perspective. And that was kind of like the first time I'd heard the impact I was making outside of the friend and family group. And that's when I started talking more about disability within my work. And then I became more of an advocate when I joined LinkedIn in 2021.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I follow you on LinkedIn, so and I love all your posts. I think it's so interesting. It's so great to see all the great things that you're up to, and also all the different organizations and charities that you belong to. I know you are an ambassador for several different
Yes,
charities, and in particular, you are the president of Wheels and Wheelchairs.
that's correct.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about that organization and what your vision is for that community and inclusivity?
Sure. So, Wilson Wheelchairs is an outdoor activity sports club where roller skaters push wheelchair users. And it started in 2012 after a Paris group were doing similar activities. And for one of their anniversaries, they challenged themselves to skate from Paris to London for the start of the Paralympic Games.
Oh wow. How
S-
long is that
It
then?
took about 6 days
Oh wow,
to
okay.
skate from one place to the other.
That's crazy.
Um,
That's great.
yeah, no,
I mean, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy to think, like,
yeah, it
it
is.
could it just takes 6 days just to travel from one, like, well, Paris, the one city to another city in a completely different country. So, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so speaking of crazy, so once the skaters came over, they were greeted by the London skaters. And once they saw that, they're like, wow, we really need to start something here because they just never even heard of that concept before.
Oh,
Because the
lovely.
French group contacted the London skaters and said, look, we want to do this. And they were like, I don't think you're going to get wheelchairs while you're skating. But they said, oh, no, we know what we're doing. So when the skaters saw that, they were like, wow, yeah, we really need to start something here. And that's when Wheels and Wheelchairs was born through three different skaters. Um, and they started taking out people from the hospice at first around the local park in Hackney, and then skipped to 2018 where I went to Hyde Park for Winter Wonderland, and went in my electric wheelchair on the ice rink, and I was going around, and one of the ice marshals came up to me, and he was talking to me, and he says, "Oh, would you be interested in wheelchair roller skating?" And I thought, what's that? I've never heard that before, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds cool. Um, so I then contacted the president at the time of the organization. I said, "Yeah, I would love to come," and they were so welcoming. And telling me all about it. And then I emailed back saying, yeah, I'll come Saturday morning in Battersea Park because that's where they meet on a weekly basis. I didn't hear anything back for like a month, and I thought, oh gosh, did I say anything wrong or did my email get lost?
Yeah.
And then luckily, I got an email back just with sad news that the president at the time had passed away for unforeseen circumstances, because no one was really expecting it. But they still wanted me to come, and I went, really enjoyed it. Got to film it because I do video editing, so I filmed my first skate and really got involved that year. Did the Paris Marathon, did a road trip and did some skating as well. And then at the end of the year, they have an annual general meeting where they have like a committee who go throughout the year, and they had asked me if I'd like to be the next president because of my involvement. And I knew I had big shoes to fill because throughout that year, it felt like I did know the previous president throughout the many stories, but I saw a lot of potential in the group. And then, yeah, I accepted to become the president. And it's been great fun. And we've done a lot of adventures since I've been involved, and we've got more wheelchair users, better equipment, and something quite exciting happening this year is we're going to be skating from Brighton to Paris for the start of the Paris Games. So it's coming full circle 12 years later.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah, you're going to be at the front,
That's
ready.
yeah, yeah. Yes.
That's lovely. I mean, based on your experience, what do you feel organisations need to do more of, or what do you think they should be doing more of to ensure that their workplaces and they are creating environments that are inclusive for people with disabilities?
I definitely feel well, there's a couple of things. So one is definitely have conversations like these. I think too many organizations or people base it on assumptions,
Yeah.
and I feel sometimes assumptions um can be quite damaging, but also it if you base something on assumptions and you get it wrong, you have to kind of redo it again when you could have just asked in the first place. So I think it's something that more conversation needs to be had. Um, and another thing, and it's not really spoken about, but I feel when it comes to accessibility in the workplace, accessibility for me starts at home. So you could have the most amazing building in the world, which is accessible, loads of lifts, have spaces for wheelchairs and all reasonable adjustments put in place. But if I can't get to the venue or the place I'm working, then it's not accessible. Um, or if I have to take 3, 4 different buses, um, and loads of different trains that have to change. Again, it can make things very difficult. So I think organizations need to think of, yeah, accessible in our place might be good, but how is the individual going to get to our workplace to be able to work? Because I've had conversations with other people where it's like, if you're stressed trying to get to work, you're not going to perform well.
Yeah.
So, everything has to be put in place to make sure that you're at your best to be able to work well. Um, and reasonable adjustments, as I've just mentioned. Um, I think sometimes people feel like reasonable adjustments is like this huge ordeal, but actually sometimes it
You
can
should
be.
just simply just be asking the question, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and I think it's rather than saying things like, "Oh no, we can't do that." I think it's looking at alternatives and looking at different different ways of doing it. So, for example, the government offer something called Access to Work. So that's grants that are given to people with disabilities to be able to work, which would help an organization pay for certain reasonable adjustments. Not saying that's a perfect scheme, because I know there's long waiting lists, but that's an alternative if to get things in place. So I think people shouldn't be dismissing adjustments for people with disabilities. It's seeing what can be done. And hybrid way of working.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think hybrid way of working is also a new alternative that works not just only for people with disabilities, but for all people. I feel like it's beneficial because it just gives you a lot more freedom of choice of different options, a different way of working that really fits for your own personal circumstances. And I love that you actually pinpointed about accessibility is that I know, and I agree with you, I don't think we talk about it often enough, is that the focus is, yes, we want to make sure that the workplace is accessible for all and especially for people with very different disabilities. But it is the question, it does need to start kind of how do they get here? Like,
yeah,
what does that journey look like? And then once we do have them here, what does that look like?
absolutely,
So yeah, I think it's a two-pronged.
absolutely. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see it as a journey rather than an end destination, because things are always changing. And as you say, varying disabilities, everyone's so unique. We've got to base these adjustments on the individual rather than, oh, you're a wheelchair user, then this is going to be fine. But actually, all wheelchair users are so different from each other. So we've got to see it as a unique perspective on people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think um, there's as you said, there's a lot of variety even just within as a wheelchair user. Because I know in preparation for our chat today, I went online and tried to look at kind of different ramps, and there was an array of different ones. And it's just making sure that you're asking those open questions and really finding out and really understanding exactly what the setup is for that individual, to then be able to ensure that you've got the right facilities for them. So I love that.
I do appreciate you making it accessible for me to come on. You know, that's really good
No, of
to be
course.
here and be on stage. So
Yeah, no, I love it. It's great to have you here, and I think it's so important. I think it's we're having these conversations about creating these inclusive environments. So, I felt like it was just it just made complete sense
yeah,
to me. It wasn't a second guessing or second question. Like, it was second thought. That's what I was trying to say. Trying to get it out. Yeah, it wasn't even a second thought. I saw your work. I love everything that you're doing. I think it's commendable. It's amazing. And I really just wanted to chat with you and find out a little bit more, and also share your journey and insights with all our listeners. And it's even perfect that you live not even about an hour away from our studio, and actually you live in an area that I grew up in.
Yes, I know. How funny is that?
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I never, it's crazy that we never crossed
I
paths
know.
when we were younger. But yeah, so I'm so happy that you're here today.
No, thank you. Yes.
So we're going to shift a little bit more in this conversation today towards mental health, because I know that it is a crucial part of conversations about inclusivity. And I know that you have openly discussed about honesty and self-awareness when it comes to kind of battling any mental health challenges that people overcome, and that you yourself may have overcome. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you feel organisations need to do to better support their employees' mental health?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. Because I think sometimes it's dismissed quite quickly when it comes to mental health. Um, and there's not enough open dialogue about it, um, especially giving people a space to chat about it if they feel comfortable in doing so. I think there should be spaces for people to talk about their mental health. Again, another conversation I had with a friend recently, you know, you could have great work environment, but if your mental health is struggling at home, you're not going to really be able to perform that well, because there's a lot of pressure on your mind and you're not going to be able to focus good. So I think giving people safe spaces to talk about it, and also have more realization on people that you don't want to overwork people. Um, I know deadlines need to be met in any kind of workplace because that's how businesses need to function. But again, it's thinking of um, creative ways around it.
Yeah, there's a fine balance, I think.
Yes.
And it's, as you said, creating that psychological safety piece, which I know I speak with a number of DI leaders on that topic, and it is something that is quite front of mind for them, is making sure that their leaders in the organization are understanding of making sure that there is space for their employees and their team to be able to share when they aren't feeling 100%, and that it's not going to be taken any other way but in a supportive and
Yes.
understanding manner. I think it's important. And as you said, because life is lifing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
There's a lot going on.
Yep.
And I think just being able to just focus on work for some people can be a great distraction.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
for others, it can cause another load that they then need to try to battle through with all the other things that they're going through at home, maybe. So I think I agree with you. I think making sure that we understand that there are some people that just can't take on more tasks, more duties, and that you're creating an environment where they feel comfortable enough to kind of hold their hands up and just be like, hey, you know what, I can't, sorry, like I'm at full capacity right now. Like I can't take this on.
Yep.
And it not be seen as a negative towards their career development.
Absolutely. Yeah. They should be, as you say, yeah, supported. Um, and as you're talking, it also reminds me, I feel like it shouldn't be just led to the HR person or whoever's in charge of dealing with that space. This is a collective. Every colleague should be learning about or have mental health training and have more awareness on it, because it's if you can do it all collectively, that makes the biggest difference. Because you know, there's a lot of people who support so many that we forget about their mental health because they have to deal with others' mental health. So it can't be based on one person to deal with everybody. It's got to be collective, including the bosses and the corporate people. Everyone needs to be on board when it comes to mental health, just so it's not so pressured for just one individual to have to deal with it. Because if one person's dealing with it and gets overwhelmed, then they're not going to perform well to help someone else. So everyone's got to be part of the mental health world and supporting each other.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you keep mentally well?
Um,
You kind of knew that question. You had to know
yeah,
that question was coming. I was like, well, how do you do it?
yes.
Don't ask me.
No, it's coming afterwards. Um, so I deal with it in multiple different ways, and I guess it's with me it's been a journey with my own mental health. Firstly, thinking like I couldn't really speak about it because I would be seen as a disappointment and seen as this quote unquote motivational, inspirational character. How could I speak so honestly about how I'm feeling? Because looking at other celebrities and influencers at the time, and something I wanted to be was like they don't share anything negative. If I want to be in that world, I can't talk about it. So I kept it within quite a lot and putting that face up, so masking, which wasn't really helping me or my audience because it was a fake portrayal of what my life actually was like. But once I came to terms of the importance of being open, and talking about it, um, and speaking to people allowed me to realize that I'm not the only one going through it. Like a lot of people do go through it. There's different variations, but I'm not the only one who's going through this right now. And being able to speak to it with open-minded people is just a bit of a relief. So having friends do really help. And I'm also there for anyone wishes to speak to me as well. A lot of people have come to me with what they're going through, and just having that listening ears, it's a lot, it's a lot for someone to be able to express how they're feeling. I also know the importance of meditation and breathing, taking that time out for myself. Because as you say, life is lifing. There's a lot going on at once. So just taking a step away, even if it's for 5 minutes. I think when you hear meditation, like, oh, I have to sit in one position for an hour. No, it's just even 5 minutes, just to take a moment for yourself. I think it's more people need to do that, just to be more within. Um,
I agree.
and also that's helped with my um, not having to rely on external factors. I try and look within first, look internally for an outward experience rather than an outward experience for me internally. So me being internally happy and inner peace and having that self-awareness has definitely helped. And I love learning and speaking to others about different things to help with my growth. Like conversations like these, I really do appreciate having open dialogue on things. So yeah, I like the growing and learning and talking.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think I probably am bad at taking time for myself. It's go go go.
Mm.
In my mind, in my body, I'm
Yeah.
like constantly on the go. I don't ever stop. But I agree. I think it's important, and that's something that I have said to myself this year that I really do want to try and take some time back for myself.
Yeah.
And whatever that might look like, because I do think that for some, I think it's okay that when you are taking time back, you don't necessarily need to do that solely time back for yourself. If that, if for some it works, so kind of
Yeah.
soul meditation and just some time out just for yourself and your thoughts, that's fantastic. I think I'm a social bunny, so when I say time out, I feel like, oh, even if it's just some time just with my sister,
Yeah.
or like just my daughter, just me and her, like sometimes I find that in itself can just be a bit of a nice reset and a nice relaxation. But I'm not going to discount some alone time also.
Yeah, I mean, it's down to individual, whatever works for an individual. Because what I've said is not. I know some people just can't do meditation,
Yeah.
or the breathing because they just can't, settle themselves down or be able to have that focus on oneself. So if it means watching YouTube or anything like that, Netflix, whatever, you got to do what works for you.
Yeah, some what do I call it? No brain TVs. I'm
But
dying.
yeah,
No brain TV. That's my Married at First Sight, Love is Blind. I love those shows. It's I'm for all those that are like, I'm not saying that you don't have a brain if you watch those shows, but it's just one of those. It's those shows that you can just completely switch off, right?
yeah,
Like it's
absolutely,
and just watch
absolutely, yeah,
and not have to kind of overthink. You're just watching,
yeah.
and it is very entertaining.
It's needed sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Isaac, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today. It's been fantastic. On the topic of mental health, what message would you give to our listeners who may well be kind of facing some challenges themselves mentally, whether it be disability related or not? What advice would you give?
It's like the question when people say, "What would I say to my younger self?" Um, and there's a lot. I think every week I would say something different to some people going through it, even my younger self. But I think the one key one is, it's okay not to be okay. I know it's overused, but it's something that is very true. And also realizing, there is always someone out there willing to listen to you. Some people say, "Oh, no one's there to listen," but actually there is someone out there, friend, family members, Samaritans, even a stranger, there's always someone out there in the world who will be willing to listen to your story, and support you through it. And I do believe there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It may be difficult, but I do believe everyone can get to a place where they are better within themselves, and see it as a journey rather than an end destination. Because I got to a end. I thought I got to the end destination where I was like, okay, I get it now. I understand about my mental health. I'm really positive now. Don't need to do any more of that. And then 2 weeks later, back to square one, thinking, oh my gosh, I've learned all of this. Why am I back to square one? And that's when I realized it's a continuous journey. Got to keep on practicing. Got to keep on learning, and I got to keep on talking.
Oh, lovely. And lastly,
Yeah.
before you leave us, what would be your parting advice for those that are striving, like us both, to make these inclusive environments everywhere? What advice would you give?
I would say get comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because that's where you get real growth. I've been in different conversations that I felt like I don't really have an opinion on, or feel like I'm different to everyone in the room, but I've kind of felt like actually if I don't engage in that conversation, how am I going to learn or grow in that space? So, for example, like ableism and ableist, are words that I thought was really extreme, whenever they were used, and I just thought, oh gosh, I don't really want to engage in that. But because of people in the community, I've learned that it's a unique experience, and everyone deals with it differently. Um, and I've also been invited to talk about it. And instead of saying, well, at first I was like, I'm absolutely nervous. I don't want to be part of this. I'm going to say something wrong. I'm going to get cancelled. But they've given me a safe space to be like, actually, no, we want to hear your honest opinion about this. And because of that, I felt like, yeah, I got to do this. And a lot of people have appreciated it when they've heard me speak about it, because I may have a disability, but I doesn't mean I know certain topics that got to do with disability. So I
Yeah.
wanted to be very open and honest about that. So yeah, putting myself in uncomfortable places shows real growth.
Yeah, definitely. And just for those listening out there, could you just give a bit more of an explanation on what is kind of ableism and ableist?
Sure. So again, this is my only take on it because it's very varying. But for me, ableism is an ableist is when someone would go out of their way to make it difficult for someone with a disability. So they intentionally um, make it difficult. Because I guess there's a bit of a fine line also, because I'm also a believer, like, if you don't know, you don't know. And if you're willing to learn, then I'm here to help you out with it. But then there's other people who just plain ignorant and don't want to do anything about it. And I guess that would be classed as ableist.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Isaac, for
Plus,
sharing all of your amazing insights and your incredible journey with me and our listeners today. The narrative of your life is a testament to what can be achieved with a positive mindset, support, community, and inclusivity at the forefront. I'm so glad that you were able to come today. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. We will have many more, I'm sure. This will not be the last. For those that are listening, if they want to connect with you and hear more about your work, learn more about you, how can they do that?
so they can follow me on LinkedIn at Isaac Harvey MBE. And yeah, I mainly post there on a daily basis. I am on other platforms, but LinkedIn would be the place to find me. And thank you ever so much for having me and being so accommodating. And looking forward to more conversations going forward.
Great. Thanks, Isaac.